For more on today's proceedings in the courtroom and what to watch for as the trial gets underway, we're joined now by Kim Wehle. She's an ABC News legal analyst and author of the forthcoming book, Pardon Power. Kim, thank you so much for joining us. What stood out to you in the opening statements from the prosecution and defense today?
Well, the prosecution laid out that this is not just about whether the jury's going to believe Michael Cohen, but they said they have corroborating evidence that's going to back up his story, presumably that he talked to Donald Trump and Donald Trump knew and had the intention to do this hush money payment to basically benefit the election. On the defense side, seems like the argument wasn't so much, listen, this didn't happen, or even that Donald Trump wasn't aware of it. I think they will argue that, and that, of course, Michael Cohen's not to be trusted, all of that, but they're essentially encouraging the jury to nullify the charges and to have a sort of a shrug about this, kind of making the argument that even if everything the prosecution says is true, it doesn't matter because this is just the hurly-burly, rough and tumble of a presidential election to do these kinds of things.
And the prosecution in this case must prove that Trump not only falsified business records, but that he did so in order to commit some other crime. Do you think that that's a high bar here?
I do, in part because the falsification of business records in New York tends to be tacked on to other kinds of crimes, so that's novel. But also the theory that these hush money payments constituted violations of the federal campaign and election laws. I think there's some debate on that. And again, the prosecution's going to need, in order to raise this from a misdemeanor to a felony, that's where we are, to have to demonstrate the intent was to impact the election. The timeline itself, though, Linsey, after the Access Hollywood tape, the allegations that maybe even the RNC was going to drop him as a candidate, there's a strong sort of argument that this was for that purpose, which I believe is why the defense came up and said, well, even if this happens, listen, jury, it doesn't rise to the level of a crime that could deprive this man of his liberty and put him in prison, which essentially are the implications here, even though it seems like a lesser type of case than the other three that are pending against him in other courtrooms across the country.
And less than a minute to go here, but the prosecution's first witness is former National Enquirer publisher David Pecker. He'll be on the stand tomorrow again. What will you be watching for from him?
Well, it all boils down really that the line between civil liability and criminal liability is this intent, this mens rea. So will David Pecker testify? Reportedly, there was a high-level meeting with him and Michael Cohen. Is he going to give testimony about what he discussed with Donald Trump, not just with respect to Stormy Daniels, but with respect to Karen McDougal, some others around, listen, we have to put a lid on this because of the election. It's that because and whether David Pecker can tie Donald Trump's knowledge and intent to the story that matters.
ABC News legal analyst Kim Wehle, we thank you so much as always.